Will I hear some music or something?
Not yet. At 8 o'clock, I'll start the intro music and you'll hear that. And I can do you.
And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go.
How you doing out there?
Well, I'm in here, so I can't answer.
Good morning, Agent 29. Mr. Ken Pendergrass. Am I still ramping over music here?
Are we having fun yet? Here we go. Here we go.
are.
It's all yours, sir.
You betcha. Hey, this ain't bad. 8 a.m. My show used to start at 6 a.m., pal, so I am wide awake with a couple of cups of coffee in me. This could be
Well, if you're
spooky.
anything like me, you probably started at least at 6 worrying about what possibly go wrong, and we've already had a couple things. But hey, we're alive,
You betcha.
and we're here with my good friend John Baggett. We call him Bags.
It's Bags. Your buddy Bags. Hey, where do I have a cough switch over here? I forgot to ask that.
You do not, because we like that authentic feel.
Okay, so here it comes.
Yeah.
That's what you get for not
I
installing
priced-
a
I priced one.
button.
You know what a price? You know what a decent one costs?
No.
You don't want to know. It's about $200. So
Okay.
I'm just going to change this. that
Well,
way.
I'll just hork it up on the air.
There.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah,
We're
it's your buddy Bags.
We're readjusting here, getting everybody where they need to be.
Boy,
Look.
that's scary. I'm
Stop
2
looking.
feet away, 3 feet away from
Stop looking
a
at me.
full-size photo of myself. I'll tell you, though,
And it moves.
you know, recently retired with the quotations for those who aren't watching because busy as ever. But one of the things that I've been able to do, and thanks for noticing that I've lost 20 pounds since the last time.
I never comment on that, especially if it's a woman,
Yeah. Oh, well.
one way or the other.
I haven't lost any breast size or anything like that. But, yeah, you know, the retired, sort of. I am still working part-time, doing referral real estate agent business, which is working out fine. We've got a great crew that I work with. And what I do is I, you know, hook people up with the right agent in the right, region of Wyoming. So I am licensed throughout the state, and so I'm doing that, but
Well,
not
I'm licensed throughout the state too. Did you know that?
with
I have a driver's
concealed
license.
carry. Yeah,
No, I
gotcha.
didn't do that. I have a driver's license right here.
Oh, well, I'm going with the concealed
Doesn't
carry.
say-
I've seen you walking
You're not
around.
supposed to say those things. It's supposed to be concealed for a reason. Folks, this is Bags Baggett. John and I go back a lot farther than you might think. We go back, oh geez, I don't know, maybe 6 years or something locally.
Yeah, it's coming up on
Um,
7.
Yeah, somewhere in there. But we actually go back farther through a common interest. I was in exile in Colorado for a period of years.
Yeah.
And the drive time, I used to have to drive basically from Boulder to Colorado Springs every day during the long drive.
Yes.
And
It's a lot longer now too, pal.
a guy by the name of Dave Logan and his buddy Scott Hastings had a show called The Sports Zoo, produced by none other than Bags here. And
Well, I was I was executive producer for KOA,
yeah,
and they had a show
you
producer
can
as
take
well.
credit for anything that happens on that watch.
Sure, but but I was definitely involved with them, especially when we did live programming anywhere, including many shows from Cheyenne Frontier days. We're talking about like 90 mid 90s
Yeah.
era
Yeah,
up
all
to
through that.
2000. So yeah.
All through that era. I had gotten out of the Army 93 or 94 or something and had started a business in Colorado Springs and stayed there for a while to work that. And you and your crew kept me. You were actually on air some of the time yourself.
Oh
Tell
yeah,
us about
I
that.
had a show. Yeah, Bags and Bales, and we did a live show at night. And I'm one of those nighttime DJs that crazy, wacky things. Craig Bale was my producer, and we just decided that, and this will go with our second hour topic too, by the way. One of the legislative resolutions about legalization of marijuana.
Ugh.
Bags and Bales. Can you do the math on that?
How many bales did Bags?
All requests, and I loved it. It was a great show. I'd drag in crates of albums. It was really live in the good old days, and it was and we did really take requests. And I remember queuing up records, albums, while I was talking to somebody on the radio. Craig Bales
Yep.
would be behind me pulling up the album, and I'd be going, queuing it up. And then I'd roll
Do that
Ted
again.
Nugent Stranglehold. There it is, live, Bags of Bales, all request.
So that brings up another question where I'm concerned is you played the radio gig for a long time in several places, I think, and you got to meet some interesting people. Tell us about some of them. By the way, I should mention that our interesting person is still firmly ensconced behind the silver microphone, but he is gallivanting today, and so we're just going to sit here and entertain you for a little bit. But
Sure.
yeah. Who have you met? What was that like?
Well, man, it runs the gambit. I will start at the top. I got to meet President Jimmy Carter, and I don't remember the name of the book, but he had a fly fishing book out. And so this was somewhere in the late 90s. And so President Carter was out, hawking his fly fishing book. And he was, despite what anybody might think about him politically, he could not have been more polite, kind, accommodating.
A Southern gentleman of
He
sorts.
was very much that way. And that was the point in my life where I was transitioning. Here you go. Ready? I was a Democrat. And are you all right over there? You going to be able to handle this?
Yeah, I'm not
Me as a
surprised at all.
Democrat? Anyway, my dad was a father in a lot of family, very much a family tradition of in the Democratic Party. But Jimmy Carter showed up, and at the time I was already transitioning to the conservative side, and he was in the hallway, and there were Secret Service men on each end of the hallway. And I got to tell you, because I am a big guy, but I was even bigger and in shape in those days, and these guys were intimidating, to say the least. Anyway, I walked up to one of them, and I had to go in there. I had to set up the questions and prepare our on-air people, which were Gus Merkus, Steve Kelly. They were the hosts of the show, and they were going to interview President Carter. And so from about 25 feet away, I'm standing there with this giant Secret Service agent fitting every description and stereotype you can imagine of a Secret Service agent guarding an ex-president. And I stopped in front of him, and I finally said, "Can I go talk to him?" And he goes, "Oh, sure, go ahead." So I walk up to President Carter, and I stick my hand out, and I said, and I quote, I said, "Mr. President, my name is John Baggett, and I'm the executive producer, and I'm the only registered Democrat from the state of Wyoming." And he smiled at me and laughed and said, "So you're the one?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, sir." And anyway,
He didn't hand you any Billy Beer, did he?
no, I mean it was more like he was just glad that somebody would talk to him. Because it was awkward. He was standing there just kind of looking and staring at the walls until the red light. Do you have a red light?
We have a light over here that
It says we're on the air.
Yeah, if I do this, let me get rid of that. There, you can see over my left shoulder. And actually, that was made in Australia, so it says on air.
Oh yeah,
It says on air.
I might. Yeah, but well, anyway, that's us radio oldies, moldies have. We see a red light and we freeze in our tracks. So it's probably a good thing. So anyway, yeah. So we started up there all the way down. And one of my favorite stories is Terrell Davis. So you were talking about celebrities that I have met, and this is right at the height. He was at this time. There was not a better running back in the NFL than Terrell Davis, and I give him. And a few others, Shannon Sharp being another one, and a great offensive line in that era that took the Broncos from being the losingest, except for the Buffalo Bills, Super Bowl team,
Funny how that works.
to being the best team in football for about 3 years. Anyway, Terrell Davis, guys would come into the studio, and I had a little office that was right across a 6-foot aisle into the production studio where I spent a lot of time, did a lot of production. As you know, probably after the show, you guys get in here and put some audio together. But anyway, I'm sitting at my desk, and I have and I should have brought it with me if I knew I was going to talk about this so I could show folks. I keep forgetting. It ain't radio, it's video. But Terrell Davis is standing 6 feet away from me. I'm at my desk, and on my desk is the Broncos Game Day magazine with Terrell Davis on it. And we had a rule at 850 KOA in Denver that we didn't bother celebrities. No asking for autographs and pictures and that kind of thing. This was supposed to be professional and so on. But it's Terrell Davis. He's my hero. He's awesome, and he's quite a specimen in person, very impressive. And he's standing there, and he looks over at me, and he smiles, and he looks back. He's looking at the red light. He's not going into the production room until the red light goes off. And I look over at him, and he looks over at me, and there's one of those nods, like, hey, and he looks down, and he sees the Broncos Game Day magazine with his picture on it, and he says, and I quote, "Hey, you want me to sign that?" I said, "Yeah, man, no, please." And I turned into a 12-year-old kid right in front of the guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've got that somewhere in the house. My wife will let me put that on the wall in the living room. It's
So
not really her style.
You met most of those guys. Dave Logan has one of the most, and I think when you were visiting the show, we talked about Dave a little bit, so we don't have to beat this into the ground, but Dave Logan is one of those rare talents that not only is an outstanding football coach, but he was drafted in 3 professional sports leagues. What's David really like? What's Dave like?
Well, he's a big dude. I don't think you can tell that still as an older gentleman. He's older than me. He's still a big man. So he's about 6'5", I'm going to guess, maybe 6'6". So when he was younger, I mean, he wasn't that far out of the NFL. He was pretty intimidating physically. And I think he kind of knew that, plus the fact that he was drafted in 3 Major League Baseball, the NBA, and the NFL. He kind of knew the impression that he made when he walked in the room. So he made a point of taking the ego out of it. I never, and I have run into some egos. I'm not naming names today, but that's not one of them. And everybody that works with him, and I just saw a recent interview with Susie Wargen, his sideline reporter for the Broncos games. Radio, we're talking, people. And she said the same thing, that being around him, he just didn't carry himself like he was a big shot. He really didn't.
I think that was part of the interplay between he and Scotty Hastings that I appreciated. Is Scotty's a wild man, and he's not real refined.
No.
Got a lot of rough
And that's
edges.
why I like him. It's kind of like me
Yeah.
and my president right now.
Yeah.
Not really refined, and I will concede that, but that's what I love about Scotty. And I do call him Scotty. It's fun working with a guy that was 7 foot tall. And I think I told you this.
We got Tom Kelly who's 6'9". So
Yeah, so you're
some
kinda,
idea.
It's still, you never really quite get over that. When I'm 6'3", so I'm bigger than most dudes. But when you get in a room with somebody who's 7 feet tall, you focus on it. It's like, holy crap! Look at the size of that guy. Anyway, Scott was big, but man, his sense of humor was even bigger. He's still funny. I think he's funny. He does the television broadcast still for Altitude, I think, television, the Nuggets games. And he's great, and I love it because he does have a sense of humor, and he also has all those players know that he's an ex-NBA player, so he gets a lot of their attention, and they like him too, and they know he's funny. So
you were on the Front Range of Colorado for I don't know how many years, and then
32 years.
32 years. And
Left
then,
Sheridan, Wyoming in '84.
How did you wind up here? What made that happen?
So Dad, John Sr., was the principal at Bighorn High School from 79 to, I think, 93, 92 or 93,
That's
somewhere
right.
in there.
He picked up the year I left.
Yeah.
So
Who did he replace? Who was your principal?
well, there was George Dribble. We called him George D. Ribble, and there was.
Can you imagine what they called my dad with a last name like Baggett?
And then there was a guy named Davenport who got in trouble for shoplifting, so he went away.
What? I missed that story.
We probably shouldn't even be telling these stories
Yeah.
out of school, but yeah. So
So
you
Dad, he was the guidance counselor and a football coach in Wheatland. We moved to Wheatland in 1976, the summer before my sophomore year, from Miami, Florida.
see, we're going backwards now. We were in the mid '90s. Now we're back
Yeah,
in the '70s.
now we're in the mid
I'm
'70s.
getting dizzy.
So that's where the we're running away from the busing riots they were having in Miami in the mid '70s. Dad said a long time before we'd come out hunting to Wyoming on multiple occasions, and every time Dad would say, I'm moving here. I'm moving to Wyoming. This is where I want to be. And we were like, yeah, Pop, for sure. Let's get back so I can get to South Beach and put my flip-flops on and so on. And then, fast forward, and I'm in a Gran Torino station wagon coming down the hill from the exit to Laramie off of I-25 and looking at all of Wheatland. There's the first light, and there's the last light, and there's Wheatland at the bottom, and that's when I started to cry. That what have we done? But I will say this before I one step further. I still have not just friends, but best friends from Wheatland, and some who are still in Wheatland. And the way they more or less adopted my family is why I still live in Wyoming, and why today when people say, hey, Bags, where are you from? I say, Wheatland, Wyoming, just because of the impact that so many of those folks had on me at that very, very important stage in a young man's life. Let's just say they put me to work at the Medicine Bow Ranch Company and the Shoup Ranch and those places, and took the Miami right out of me.
So you eventually end up in Sheridan.
And after flunking out at Shadron State, I went to Sheridan College, and they had a communications program that had an internship at KROE. And
I remember that.
You betcha, FM 94, which is now Z94. Same rock and roll station, and that was my first experience. Went on at like 8 o'clock at night. No, later than that, like 10 to 2. It was an overnight, but being able to sit down there and spin records, really spin records.
I didn't listen to you. I was listening to Rowdy Rudy.
Yeah, you were probably
Catwalk.
some country, backwards ass country stuff while I was rocking out. I was becoming at that time. I hated country music at first. Now I love it. My dog's name is Waylon, for God's sakes. But at that time, it was like I was discovering. I remember walking in on one of the guys was playing country music, and I said, "What is that?" It stopped me in my tracks, and he thought I was giving him crap because at that time I was listening to AC/DC and like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, and he was playing Don Williams, and I go, "Who is that?" And he thought I was teasing him, and he goes, "Hey, get out of here, Bags, you and your rock and roll crap." I said, "No, who is that?" And he said, "Don Williams." So when he left, I went back in and put the Don Williams album on, and I started falling in love with some of those voices, and it just took off from there. So, but anyway, so I was doing the night show at KROE, and then I did some substitute hosting in the middle of the day on KROE, the AM, and that's where it started. And it really didn't, who I worked with at the time, your pal, Bob Beck. Bob Beck was the news director at KROE.
I remember those days.
Yeah, and he and I became friends, and he boogied to Laramie to work for the public broadcasting, right?
Yeah, I tried to take his job away this last year, but that's a whole nother story.
Oh yeah, you've got a few relationships with a few media people that I know well. But anyway, but before that, he went to KOWB. News director, and he called me up one day and said, "Bags, let's go. If you're going to do this, if you're serious about it, I got a job for you. Production and a midday host there at KOWB. Andy Hofer was my boss. Great man. I think he's still alive and kicking too. And if he's out there, God bless you, Andy. Thanks for helping this career along. That and Kim Love, obviously. So." A few years in Laramie, I meet Miss Wright, Deborah. Her and I take off to Cheyenne, continued working for the Kirk Gowdy Sports Network, which involved KFBC. And a few years there, that's where I met Jimmy Orr, did radio there on a FM station.
Yeah, Jimmy Orr of the other Cowboy State entity.
Yes, that your pal...
I just got an invite.
David calls the Cowboy.
Yeah, I just got an invite here 10 minutes or 15 minutes ago
to subscribe.
to be back on the show again. I turned the last one down.
Well, I heard you on with Jake, and I'm going to say this about Jake. So, first of all, I have nothing bad to say about the team over there. 8 months or so on Cowboy State. Were you calling it the Cow Pie when I was on it?
We've called it that for years.
You didn't stop for the 8 months?
We didn't listen on Saturdays. We gave you the window.
Oh, thanks. It just rolled your eyes and turned it off.
Yeah.
Well,
He'll
anyway.
come to his senses eventually and be back where he should be.
All right, we're skipping ahead here. So I'm Cheyenne for a few years.
Well, we only got 2 hours today.
The wife gets a job, the wife-to-be. We're not married yet, living in sin, much to the chagrin of Rod and Joyce, Deb's folks. Anyway, so we moved to Denver to chase her job, and I walked in. This is what's really a great story. I don't know if I told you this one. So Deb gets the job in Denver working for a financial investment company, and she's the love of my life. So I go in to Kurt Gowdy. Yes, I'm dropping names. Kurt Gowdy, and I said, Mr. Gowdy, and he, gentleman, I can't even describe how, kind and stuff he was to me. Anyway.
He was a class act.
Class, God.
Yeah.
Do you not know the level of celebrity that you are, Mr.
Yeah.
Gowdy? Anyway, I told him, I said, I got to go to Denver. She's going. So he goes, hey, while I'm sitting there, he gets on the phone and calls KOA and says, what do you got? Can you put this kid to work? He works hard. He knows how. He's a ranch kid, which was partly true because I was at one point for about 5 years every summer living in a bunkhouse, as a hand. But anyway, he'll work hard for you, do that, this and that. And they said, well, he's got to come pay his dues. But anyway, ultimately, that's how I ended up at KOA. Was through that introduction. So then we moved to Denver. I first started out doing middays, doing a 50s on Cruisin' 1150. It was an AM. Does that ring a bell at all to you?
Fortunately, no. I say fortunately. I had to take a hiatus, and because I raised my right hand, and
Oh,
so I missed a lot of things.
as I'm
I went
thanking
to
you
see
for your
the-
service.
I went to see the world. I'll leave it that way.
Yeah, on Uncle Sam's dime. I'm related to somebody who's doing that as well. We could talk about Joseph here in a little bit. But anyway, so now I'm in Denver. I'm doing Cruise 1150 middays, which helped me fall in love with doo-wop music because we had a doo-wop lunch hour. Played dip doo dip dip doo. You know what I'm talking about? The Cadillacs and
Oh yeah.
the Four Seasons, et cetera. And it was a request show. Again, I'm spinning at this point 45s, and God, it just seems like ancient history when I see video like an old WKRP in Cincinnati and they're queuing up a record. It feels like it's ancient history.
We
dude.
might have to set the record player up for you tomorrow just so you can show us your chops.
I feel like
We
I'm
actually
still,
have that capacity here.
You got
We
it.
may not have a red light and a cough button, but we got some stuff going on.
I've told you what I think about your studio because I have my own at my house. It ain't this. All right, so we're Denver, doing radio, DJ, etc. And I end up finally, we get here, basically getting fired as a DJ on 103.5 The Fox and being hired the next day to be executive producer at KOA. And my primary function was to produce the morning show. So that's how I ended up in programming on the Blowtorch, which at that time was the largest news organization in Colorado, in the region, obviously. And we had like 6 or 8 reporters. We had a helicopter. We had a show producer. We had an executive producer. We had a technical producer. We had at least 2 hosts.
Did you have an Agent 24?
And didn't have an agent. We got one now, though. Anyway, so and then eventually I ended up, when I found out how much money they were making in sales, my buddy Kenny Marks was the promotions director at KOA and the Fox, the FM station, and he went over the wall into sales. And next thing you know, he's buying a Mercedes or a Land Rover or something. What the heck? He said, Bags, they're making money hand over foot in sales. So eventually I went into sales, and then eventually into management, and eventually Denver outgrew me, and I came home in November of 2019.
Well, we'll pick that back up in just a minute. You mentioned sales, and that reminded me we got to pay some bills.
Better.
I'm going to pay a little bit of bills here, and hang on. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of all the meaningless political drivel floating around right now? Endless commentary that really doesn't have anything backing it up? Do you long for the days of true investigative journalism coming from an authoritative source who really doesn't care how popular and apparently good-looking a politician is? Fortunately for you, that's what I do on Cowboy State Politics. New episodes are published every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and you can get them anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest way is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There, you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles I might bring up during the course of the program. Cowboy State Politics Live, the program you're listening to right now, is broadcast every Tuesday through Friday, beginning at 8 a.m. Pay attention to all of that other block-headed nonsense if you want. Just make sure that you don't miss an episode of Cowboy State Politics. And now, back to our program.
We are back. And I think you were just going to finish up your story of how you got here.
Yeah,
And I think that's important so that people listening in have some idea who they're hearing from. So.
yeah. Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and then eventually I ended up doing a 4 hours of talk radio on Cowboy State Daily, as David lovingly refers to it as the cow pie. Loved it, enjoyed it. It was really enjoying it, and then we had some technical issues, and we did not get those resolved, and I think they some of those folks over there think that I quit, but I feel like I was canned.
I think it's worth mentioning that you and I and David we go back several years, and we've had several talks over the years about how fun it would be to work together. And so it's nice to have the Cowboy State Daily out of the way for us. But I'm sure it was fun for you to get back into it. And
Definitely.
Yeah, now you're in a position where you don't want to be tied down. I get that. I feel much the same way.
You're busier than hell, though, dude. I mean,
it's not.
you're the opposite of me.
Retirement is not what it was cracked up to be in my mind.
So
But, I'm not really complaining though, because I appreciate what I'm doing here. I appreciate this audience and what they've meant. I go all over the state and people come up to me and they know who I am. That's kind of weird. But.
Well, that's why I hear when David called up. First of all, can you imagine what a frightening sight it is to see that Dave? You stumble on this guy in complete camo, his face blacked out, with high-powered weaponry, hiding in a blind in the woods. That's what's lurking out in the woods somewhere as he's turkey hunting. That scares me. If you walked up,
He's not that deadly though.
no. Well, I tend to come home empty-handed too.
Yeah.
I do love turkey hunting. It's one of my favorite hunts.
I only say that, and David, I know you'll hear this. I only say that because his track record elk hunting isn't that good. But
I bet mine's
in most
worse.
of those things, mine's not so good myself. In most of those things, you get out of it what you put into it.
Oh yeah, I get out of it what you're supposed to get out of it, and that's the seclusion, the peace and quiet, and one with nature as I zen because I'm not
and
killing anything.
the peace and quiet, which you go into with a boom stick that makes a lot of noise, and at one with nature until you kill it.
Yeah, good luck after that.
Now I love it out there myself. I love to hunt fish. But anyway, you're here now. You are temporarily ensconced, at least, behind the silver microphone. Welcome.
Yeah. I appreciate.
What's on your mind?
Well, this is one of the things going back. We were talking about my experience producing news radio in Denver for years. By the way, that was my favorite era of my media career, which is at 44 years now. I started in 81, 45 here at KROE. But
just like my marriage.
So the role of executive producer was kind of, it's like a director, a program director. But my job was to help assign topics, help assign reporters, and to help inform our hosts on what the issues were and are, and what are some good ways to attack that issue and make for some interesting, entertaining, but mostly informative news radio. Okay. KOA had the hard news, which was what I was primarily responsible for. And then we had opinion radio. Okay. Rush Limbaugh was on KOA. We had Mike Rosen at the time. Who else would line up? Anyway, primarily conservative, our talk show host. But the goal of our morning show, Colorado's Morning News, was always to get hard news, hard facts, and to remember the efforts that we made to verify. And then we would have the post-show programming meeting, like how'd it go? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? And virtually every show, we would have a topic that was anything controversial. What are we going to do to find an opposing opinion? Who do we need to go? I still have this black book. I'm going to show that to you one of these days. I mean, this is old school, dude. It's a black book that had the mayor's home phone number. It had, nobody had a cell phone, the mid 90s.
Yep.
And, I mean, we're talking about the chief of police, celebrities, John Elway's number, et cetera, because I had to set up those interviews at 5 o'clock in the morning. Think about the reception I got when I would call John Elway at 5:30 in the morning to get him on the show at 6:30.
And he didn't have a cell phone. It wasn't like he just rolled over and picked it up.
The wife and everybody was getting up when I called.
Yeah.
And so I can remember some very upset people me calling, and everybody wanted to do the interview at 8 o'clock. Yeah, because that show was from 5 to 9. It was not 6 to 10.
Yeah, you want to do it at 8 o'clock because everybody's settled in at work and you're going to get their attention.
Yeah, they've been up and have a cup of coffee, but getting somebody to do an interview at 5:15 in the morning was a bear. But the reason I bring that up is as I watch the news today, it's very hard to differentiate, in my opinion. All of this is my opinion, folks. So be fact-checking me too hard because you can find some holes in it if you want. But anyway, it just seems to me that there's less effort to verify. There's less effort to find the opposing opinion. They may throw that opposing opinion in there on some of these news programs, but it'll be after they gave 6 or 8 interviews and opinions from folks that have the same agenda, the same rhetoric as they do, and the position that they've taken on a topic. And that bothers me. And especially today, as I've told you before, I thank you for your service. My oldest son is serving currently. And so I have some good sources on what's going on in the military. And I'm not saying, necessarily just my son, but I get some feedback from him. And there are so many positive things going on right now, Ken, with our military. If you brought up just the recruitment numbers, compare them to 5 years ago, in all branches, there is a huge increase that people are wanting to serve. Whether you love or hate this president, he's the commander-in-chief, and that has to be an indicator of the condition of our military. And speaking to my son, his consensus is that right now, in his coming up on 10 years of service, the attitudes and the competency of the recruits today compared to 5 years ago is substantially better. And all of them, not all of them, can't say that, a large proportion of the people serving in all of our branches, they are gung-ho. And they are, you think you're proud of the performance of our military right now, between our Navy and our Air Force and what they've done? Our military, and my son is Army, they're extremely proud. And there's so much of what we've accomplished there. We're not done. I get it. That is just not being reported.
So I can relate in that when I started my Army career, Jimmy Carter, no. Bill Clinton. Hard to tell the difference.
Well,
Jimmy Carter was a nice man. Bill Clinton, maybe not.
I did
But
not.
but yeah, that transition between Bill and President Reagan, um,
Well,
that was a rough one.
similar.
And then when you come back and George W. comes in under Clinton, the military, we go out for training or something, and we didn't even have blanks to train with.
Mhm.
We're literally running around going bang bang because there was no money for the military. We transitioned back to the Bushes, and all of a sudden the money's there to do what we needed to do. We felt like somebody cared about what we were doing. We got sent over to Iraq and Kuwait, and the politicians stepped out of the way, and they gave it to Storm and Norman. Said, "You do what needs to be done. This is the goal," and we got it done in very short order. And the esprit de corps, the atmosphere there, vastly different. So I can imagine right now the transition coming out of the Biden years into the second Trump term.
Well, you look at, so for me, I have my son, who's a captain, commander, jump master. He's Ranger tabbed. He's all in. And then I have a nephew who's serving, and I have a cousin, second cousin, who's currently serving. Then I have one of my best friend's son is a major in the Marine Corps. So when you have people that close to you serving, you know, and I'm just being honest and transparent here. When I hear all the negative things about this operation in Iran or with Iran, and never hear anything positive, and I say never, mostly never hear anything positive about what's going on, I take offense to that. And to people who are saying, well, you don't know that we don't have the Strait of Hormuz under control, we this, that, and the other, they'll come up, and you can come up with things that aren't going exactly right. Hell, it's war. But if you never focus on, is that amazing what happened with the rescue? Isn't that amazing? The fact that we've only had, and again, people say only, was it 13? I don't know how many we've lost so far, but relative to the amount of military we have involved and as many strikes, et cetera, it's a miracle that we haven't had more deaths.
We lose soldiers all the time, soldiers, sailors.
Training.
In training. And this is pretty hard training.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, my son, I'll see video of him and others jumping out of a plane, airborne all the way. And I just shudder at that, just the landing, because I have skydived myself. And so just in training, when we're not at war, et cetera, the commitment people have to make, and so on. And I so admire that commitment and their patriotism that when the media doesn't, they'll do a report on how bad we're doing in Iran, and that there's no instinct today to say, well, let's talk to somebody who's going to tell us how good and how well we're doing and the unbelievable accomplishments that we've been able to do. And that is my beef, because I remember how important to me and to the team I worked with back in the day at KOA to get that opposing view. And I know, I'm generalizing, of course, because every now and then they'll bring a target, a Republican into some of the liberal media, and they'll take them apart, or her. But generally, it's the same narrative that things are going poorly and that we're somehow losing in Iran, if you can imagine that.
And what gets me, too, is the idea that Trump and his people have no idea what they're doing. They don't really have a plan. The people saying that have no idea what it takes to do something like this.
No, and the idea that our president's going to give a timeline.
Oh,
So, first of all,
thanks for mentioning that, because even when I was in, we had CNN reporters coming up and saying, "When do you expect to be where? Who all's going to be with you? All this stuff." You idiot!
yeah,
Don't you understand anything about secrecy? I mean,
yeah.
Saddam sitting over there in the bunker watching CNN.
Yeah, Joseph, my son won't tell me diddly squat. I mean, I tease him. I say, "Well, give me the general's number so I can know." We have plans to make, family plans, so I need to know what the strategy is here. So in case you're deployed or whatever, I need a timeline, and I joke about that. It's just not realistic, and especially since it's war. And it changes day to day. And in a situation like Iran, where we don't know and nobody knows really who's in charge and who our government and our diplomats are talking to, and who's actually making a decision about firing a rocket on the shore right there at the Strait of Hormuz, they may not even be in communication with each other. So being able to say decisively that we have it under control, or we don't, is really just speculating. And if they hear, and this is what kills me, Ken, Agent 29, what kills me is that they will take this lying terrorist regime that we've known since I was in high school, when they kidnapped our diplomats in Iran for 48 years, whatever it is. Been lying to us and killing Americans and funding terrorists, proxies around the world, et cetera, et cetera. They'll say something, and we don't even know what their position is, if they have any authority, and our media will run with it and say, "See, but the Iranians say," and then they'll say, "Yeah, but President Trump lies too." Well, President Trump has to answer to that if it's something comes out that needs to be fact-checked, and sometimes they do. But they will come out and say, as if this Iranian so-and-so has any credibility, and whatever he's saying must be true. Wow, because it contrasts with what the administration is saying. That drives me crazy, Ken.
It does, and it's frustrating. I mean, you look at how many. Let's go back to Obama. How many news reports came out and were seriously critical of him? You would have thought he was the second coming of Christ for a while there. You know, the crease in his trousers will give you the shivers, you know. And at the same time, we watch the coverage on Trump, and I should make this clear: a lot of things Trump does that really irritate me.
Me too. Me too.
I have some issue with his style of governance. I don't take issue usually with where he's trying to go, but anyway, that's all aside from it. Just the bias out there is so abundantly clear that I think, outfits like CNN, they don't have hardly any credibility. They don't have hardly any viewership anymore.
Well, and they've lost that because what they don't realize, I have my issues with Trump have to do with his very undiplomatic style at times. I mean, I cringe on occasion when he says something, only because, being a media guy myself, like right here, right now, I don't want to drop an F-bomb by mistake or whatever. When I hear him do that, I don't like it. And I don't like his instinct to attack people personally, talk about somebody being fat or what. I hate that stuff. I hate it. But I have friends, and not just friends, but I have best friends who do that. I've been known to say some very inappropriate things and so on. So now we elect a president who's not a politician. He's a New York contractor, a New York City contractor. With all his personality is what it is. We elect him, and he ends up behaving like a New York City contractor.
It's not like we didn't know what we were getting.
Exactly. And so I wish he'd stop it, the tweets and so on. I wish he'd stop it. But I also know that he's not getting a fair shake from the mainstream media, so he feels like he can't get his perspective out unless he does. So I know why he's doing it. I just don't have to like it.
Yeah,
but here,
he does know how to play the media, doesn't he?
oh,
He'll throw it out there
and
and let them chew on that.
But I'll line up my friends who have that instinct, who are sarcastic and who are trying to get your goat. And that's what he's doing. And if the media can't stop falling for that, that just is ignorance at the top level. Unbelievable. But anyway, so I make the point because I have loving family, very, very close family members who are not Republican, who are not conservative, who are liberal. And, they tell me, how can you support somebody who's like that? And my answer is, he's our commander in chief. And I have a son and family members and friends who are serving, and he is behind them, and they know it, and they respect generally their commander in chief, and that's, to me, that is reassuring that we have somebody like that who has that much respect and is committed to our military. So if you're listening out there and you disagree with me, imagine your kid is serving in the military in a command role with a combat unit, and it's Jimmy Carter as your commander-in-chief or Joe Biden as the commander-in-chief. Think about that for just a second before you look at me and say, you right wingnut bags you.
There's another aspect that, now, there are several aspects we could go on for a long time, which I don't want to do. But in how you're treated, what you don't see about Trump, but we hear from people who are close to him, and I do know some, one of the most caring, decent people to be around. But I also knew some people who were in and around the White House in the Biden years and in the Obama years. And the disrespect and the contempt they had for the military personnel which were there. And that gets around. When you're in the military, something happens, it gets everywhere really fast. And they knew that we weren't respected, and therefore it's hard to give respect back. Quite the opposite currently.
The old adage that it trickles down from the top, it reflects upper management. It reflects leadership, how you behave, how you lead, how you command, etc. And then it just trickles downhill to get down into the chief of staff, you get into the director of war, you get into etc. All the way down to the generals and down to at least where my son is in the rank of captain. And at that point, there's a level of competency is raised. It's, high tides lift all ships. And that's where we're at right now. And the fact that we are at war, as I know what the description of war is, but this conflict in Iran, my opinion is, at least in the last 5 years or so, it could not have happened at a better time to eliminate the nuclear program, the ICBM capabilities of Iran, than right now, while our military is...
Who else is going to do it? It's been, as you pointed out, 48 years or something since these people took charge, and everybody said, we got to do something, we got to do something, we got to do something.
How many times do I have to watch, and I just saw one again recently, not just the people of Iran in a protest, shouting death to America, but from their parliament or whatever the hell they call it, from the lectern on the microphone, shouting death to America. I've grown up with that. 1979 is when I graduated from high school, people. I'm 65 years old. So the bulk of my life, I've been listening to them say death to America.
I'm right there with you.
And I'm saying, what the hell? I mean, they mean it, and they've meant it all along, and now here we are. So again, of anybody that does not want, and Joseph hates me telling him this, because he's ready. He's trained and ready, people. Airborne, Ranger, tabbed, captain, commander, jump master. He wants to serve his country. I dread, getting the news that is getting deployed and being sent over there. I dread it, and so does his mother. But anyway, they want to serve the people that are in there. Not all of them. Some are trying to avoid doing something else. But the bulk of them are there for the right reason. They want to serve their country. Most of them want to serve this commander in chief, and there's a pervasive attitude of victory in our military right now, better than ever, and this is the best time to be there.
There's one other aspect that really affects morale, and you talked about it trickling down from the top. Under the Biden years, those military officers who were prone to do what the military should do, a lot of them were weeded out. They were retired. They were involuntarily moved on.
Oh, yeah.
And the Biden administration put up people with their type of thinking. And so we had at West Point, for example, we had a particular character who was very big on DEI and started infecting that school with that. Well, once Trump comes in, those things start getting phased out, and this particular character gets phased out, and now he's the new president of the University of Wyoming.
Well,
we have some fun times coming.
Part of me is willing to give him an opportunity because what he also brings is some of that military mentality that I respect. So, what his politics are, and I don't know him well enough. I have spoken briefly to him. That we're talking about General Reeves, and so because I respect so much his service and so on, I think that some of what he brings is going to be positive because of the structure, the discipline that comes with the military, and I assume West Point, but also
you would hope there's still some there.
I would think.
Yeah.
I do know some West Point graduates, and boy, are they impressive. Some of them are ex-Rangers, Green Beret, Delta, etc. So, but anyway, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, and certainly a little space to show what his agenda is going to be. He's an extremely intelligent man, so he knows where he's going. To the state of Wyoming. He's no idiot. He knows that we're 73% the top voting state for Donald Trump. So he knows where he's going and who his constituency is going to be. So I would assume that would impact his position on some of these issues. Maybe he has a different opinion on than I do.
Yeah, I hope that you're right. I anticipate meeting him here not very long from now, but I look forward to that. I understand what you're talking about with the military background, but I approach this with a certain amount of suspiciousness. Anyway, we're winding up to the top of the hour. We probably should pay a couple more bills so
Come on, man.
David will be able to afford to get back. So we'll be back.
Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Hunting season. Right about now, you're off with all of your pals, stalking the big gigantic elk or buck mule deer that you've been thinking about all summer long. And your lovely wife is at home, probably enjoying her time without you. But soon, my friend, all of that is going to come to a screeching halt. And I want you to think about just one little thing. She's able to park her car inside the garage because all of your hunting crap is with you right now. Now, if you'd like the marital bliss to continue, I suggest you make a call to Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They can build you a garage or a barn or any other type of metal structure for you to store all of your toys in so that your wife can continue parking inside the garage. And you can avoid sleeping on the couch for the next month or two. Call Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. Get them to build you a metal building before it's too late.
Hey, Ken, are we going to talk about weed next hour or not?
I have no basis to talk about weeds. I don't know anything about them.
I've got a couple of questions about the resolutions, and since I have one of our state representatives here,
I also
have some
happen to
questions.
be the chairman of the state GOP Resolutions Committee. Now, how that happened, I really don't know, and I kind of wish it hadn't, but
Well, it sounds like a lot of
it's
responsibility
going to be
to
a
me.
long week. I'll be here Wednesday, and Wednesday afternoon I will take off for Douglas, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday we'll be at the convention down there. But by that time, David should be back here, so everything
He better
should
have
be,
at least one turkey. I think the bag limit is. Oh, he's in.
You
in
said
Nebraska?
bag limit.
Where is he? We don't want to say.
No, no,
He's incognito. man.
highly classified. You could tell you, but
Yeah.
then we got to kill you. That kind of
I
stuff.
love turkey hunting, dude. It's one of my favorites. You know why? This is how pathetic I am. Because I get to deck out in camo. I put the black, the charcoal all over my face and stuff, and I get to feel like I'm special forces
We
out
have
in the woods.
turkeys in our yard almost every day. You
Well,
can walk out there with a
that's different.
croquet mallet and
Well, I could run them over on Laux too,
yeah.
dude. But I'm talking about calling them in and do, especially spring. Unfortunately, I'm not going this year just because I've spent too much money on some home improvement projects. But usually, and I have gone to Nebraska. My wife's family has farmland there, and we've shot a few turkeys there, but not the same ones we have on Main Street here in Sheridan. I'm talking wild turkeys, real wild turkeys. Wild Turkey 101. That's the
with a
bourbon.
little bit of ice, a wild turkey, not bad.
Oh, hey, with you, dude. What time do we get off here? 10 o'clock? Okay.
Not soon
Finally,
enough.
a consensus between you and I. Finally. I hope you're okay with this, but I told you that I've been kind of like retired, but really out of the loop more than maybe my entire life on what's happening in the world because I haven't been on the radio with my own show since, I guess that's August. No, it was October.
Wow.
And so a lot has happened, and especially with the legislature. How many times have I told you if there's something I need to know, Ken, would you please call me or send me something because I haven't been paying attention. Anyway, a lot's been going on with the resolutions, a lot of interesting ones that I find. And I think I did know that you were head of that committee. I just forgot, but I did know we were going to be together today. So I have some questions and comments and on a couple of them. Is it okay if we kind of focus on
Sure.
two of them? All right.
Well, once you've totally screwed up, then we just won't invite you back. So.
Yeah. Okay.
You're fine.
Well, the first one's about marijuana. Weed.
Too bad we can't
pot,
stay.
cannabis. Yeah. Sorry. Got to go, folks. All right. Full disclosure. I smoked, I inhaled, and did it for quite a while. I would probably say from teenage years into my 30s, where I became a parent, and then it became apparent to me that I didn't like it. I'm one of those people that would get paranoid. You've heard that does that. Now, I don't expect you. I mean, you can't. It's okay if you don't say, "Yeah, Bags, I know what you mean," because maybe you don't.
I don't.
Okay. Well,
I
I
did
get
have
it.
some very close friends who went through that, and I think that's why I didn't. Is I didn't like what it was doing to them.
Yeah. Well, I didn't like what it's doing to me. So so meanwhile, as I throw stones, right? Oh, Bags. My friends that are listening. Yeah, Bags. Yeah, right. Bags and Bales, all request show, right? Yes, they know, and they have, and they've been there. But at the same time, you do outgrow things, and I do have a tendency to have a bourbon or two on occasions. So I have no stones to throw. That's what I'm trying to say. But resolution, the title is Resolution Against the Legalization and Discrimination of Marijuana, Cannabis in parentheses. Whereas the legislation of marijuana fosters crime, homelessness, unemployment, drug-related hospitalizations, economic devastation, and the overall degradation of society as evidenced by other states which have already done so. And whereas the state of Colorado reports spending over $4 for every $1 received in the taxation of marijuana, and whereas the legalization of marijuana, cannabis, actually increases black market marijuana, other illegal drug trafficking, which involves major cartel activity. Therefore, be it resolved that the Wyoming Republican Party stands against the legalization and decriminalization of medical and recreational marijuana, cannabis. Okay, so let's tell you why I am with the Republicans on this one. And the people who say, yeah, Bags, I remember when. Here's why. And again, I was in Colorado at the time when in 2000, when they first legalized medical marijuana use. And the first thing that happened, and it became apparent with the legalization of medical marijuana, was the fraud. So everybody was going to their dentist. Everybody was going to their primary care, saying they had some kind of condition that needed. It was like every other dude or dudette in Colorado had a medical marijuana card. It was worth bragging about. And people, I didn't go that route with it, but so by 2000 I was kind of out of it as far as smoking marijuana was concerned. But a lot of people that I knew, it was their goal was to get a medical marijuana card, and they did. And I know that it was a big, fraud operation, and people. So it got so pervasive, and it was such a joke. It was a joke, and everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about who had it and why, and how many. And let me just say this. I should have started with this. There are people that use marijuana for the reasons that I think are legitimate with medical issues. I know people who, while fighting cancer or some other disease or condition, who had completely lost their appetite. They weren't eating. They were having all kinds of issues related to that condition. And marijuana helped them, no question. I mean, I can attest to the fact that marijuana does give you the munchies, and anybody that denies that can kiss my rear end, my fat rear end.
Cheetos.
Yeah, Doritos. Okay, so let me make that clear that there is, as far as I'm concerned, legitimate medical uses for marijuana. People that take the the gummies now and the cookies and everything else that has the THC in it. Some of them need it, and it works for them. So with that being said, but if you're being honest and you're from Colorado and you remember back in 2000 era when they legalized the medical use of marijuana, you and I both know that it was fraudulent, and a lot of it was fraudulent, and people were taking advantage of it. So that's the start. So now let's fast forward. At this time, how they were talking about it was that this is the way we make it safe. This is how we take it out of the black market, et cetera. I mean, so they had a lot of rationale for why it should be legalized as medical use. So then you fast forward, and everybody's kind of nodding and winking, and people are smoking marijuana, and people are starting to come into Colorado whose attitudes about drug use. They figured if marijuana was legal, right, then everything must be relaxed. That they must be like Amsterdam, right? People were coming in who had some significant and serious, much more serious than marijuana issues, with cocaine and meth and all these things. They think Colorado, hey, if marijuana's legal, because at this point they weren't even prosecuting, recreational use here. So between 2000 and when they legalized it in 2012, they really were like, you know what, give him a ticket. If he gets caught with pot and doesn't have a medical marijuana card, he must be an idiot if he can't get a medical marijuana card. So now, but we were starting to see. This is when we started seeing. When I say we, I mean my family started to see the influx of homelessness, the increase in homelessness, and some of the characters that were moving to Colorado, and especially the Denver area. Now Boulder was always, we'd go to Boulder, just to see the hippies smoking pot.
Why do you think it's called stoned?
I know. Boulder is stoned in Boulder. Makes sense. No, we would go there, and it was, we didn't really care because Boulder, it's, they're somebody playing a guitar and taking a bong hit right there. This is when everything was illegal. I'm talking about the 80s and 90s when we'd be over in Boulder. But anyway, in Denver, it started to work its way there. It became more and more prevalent, et cetera. Now you move forward to 2012, and they legalize recreational marijuana. And in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, the what hit the fan. That now it just became so pervasive that you can't even today drive anywhere. You go to a major intersection in Denver, you smell weed, you smell marijuana, giant, warehouses growing marijuana, and the pervasiveness. I think it goes along with a lot of the transfers from folks from California and other liberal places. That's when you really started seeing the transition of Colorado from red to purple to blue. And people are rolling their eyes. You're going to blame that on marijuana? Well, I mean, I'm putting it in the same package.
It does tend to be a factor.
The crime. But let's just talk about the lie about the black market. So just your listeners are probably more intelligent than my listeners were on my old show. So they know that. So if you make marijuana legal, and there's stores and they put a price tag on it, the black market, even bad black market marketers, are going to come in and undercut your price on the street with illegal marijuana. So what does that do? It draws a whole nother group of folks whose attitudes about legality are dismissive.
Yeah, they have no respect for the law whatsoever.
Exactly. It drew a lot of those people to Colorado. And I think that, again, people don't realize. So what I'm thinking, a lot of them were in their mind that they were going to get a job in the marijuana producing business. Well, there was all kinds of rules about who could work, and I think they had to take blood tests. I'm not sure, whatever. But all these people came to Colorado that thought that they were going to work in the marijuana industry. Remember, Colorado is the guinea pig, the original guinea pig. Nobody else had done it to this point. And the whole time, the legislature, the government, the leaders in Colorado were telling us, it's going to be great. We're going to get rid of the black market. We're going to get all kinds of tax dollars. We're going to be able to fund our schools. We'll have the greatest schools in the nation. We'll have money, tax money up the wazoo to take care of our homelessness, et cetera. This is what they were promising us. And believe it or not, at that time, I was like, okay, maybe, and again, I couldn't throw any stones because I'd done it. So I was kind of following along with everybody else. So eventually, 2012, they legalized recreational marijuana, and we watched just the downhill slide since then of homelessness, of crime, et cetera. Not because of the substance of cannabis, but because of and not all, but some of the people that it drew.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that it's also true with gambling? Because Wyoming right now is flirting with bringing in gaming, and then the big deal is look at the money we could make off of the taxation of the same. Do you think that the same issues or similar issues might occur there?
I think you can make that argument. I haven't thought hard and long enough about it to form a good, solid, educated opinion on that. I'm not a gambler, never have been. I lose $20 playing poker with my buddies. I'm bummed. So, but I do see the impact that it has, like marijuana, people that become addicted and so forth. So, but I can't. I'm just gonna plead the fifth on it, and then know that the next time I come back here, if you'll have me back, I'm gonna throw about 50 different quotes out about gambling because I don't like the fact that I'm not a gambler. Never really have been. I mean, I play Shake a Day.
Yeah.
Which they're taking that away. Is that what I hear? What the hell?
That really irritates me. The same thing like the
stupid Shake
card
a Day
games. They got the card games on the wall at the Elks, and they're
the last chance.
That is a step too far in my mind because I don't like laws that are impossible to enforce.
Oh, yeah.
And there's some give and take in there, but the general principle. But what you're experiencing, Bags, right now, is part of what it's like to be in the legislature, where when you decide I'm going to run, you have one or two issues that you're really passionate about that you kind of boned up on, and you get in there and you find out that you've got to become interested in everything.
Yeah, that's why
I'm
careful to argue with you, because you're right in the middle of it.
But it forces you to think about things and to try to fit them into your ideology. I know we've had a discussion here on the show lately that ideology is becoming a bad word. You're not supposed to be ideological. You're supposed to be open-minded. You'll fall for anything if you don't stand for something.
Right. Well, it's funny you brought that up, because one of the other resolutions I want to talk about is the religious freedom one, if we get to that. But wasn't quite finished with the weed, Ken.
You still got a roach left.
I still got a little roach in the ashtray. But it is a lie. So I brought up, doing my research for our conversation today. Let me get it on here. So I see this report from the University of Colorado. So go ahead and laugh. University of Colorado Boulder does a report on marijuana, okay? So, and the headline is, "A decade after legalizing cannabis in Colorado, here's what we've learned." It says here, and I'll just read these headlines here. It says, "Legalization increases use, but not necessarily problems." Disagree. And then next headline, with some groups, health risks are real. Agreed. I already said that. And here's another headline. Health benefits are measurable. Yeah, okay, I'm with you. And then cannabis users are not couch potatoes. That's in the article. Can we swear on your show?
Well, you can.
That's bullcrap. Cannabis users.
That gets said a lot.
Yeah, I'm old school radio, and I try not to swear, even if I can. Cannabis users are not couch potatoes. How much bull s that is? Everybody, yeah, right.
I told you earlier I didn't like what it did to some of my friends, and that was a factor. And I would label it more as just apathy. They just got to the point where they didn't really care about anything.
Yeah, well, I told you there's three things I can do when I was high, and one of them is eat, and the other one was listen to music. I'm not going to tell you what the other one was. That's none of your business. Anyway, that's it. There was nothing else that I was good at. Sometimes I thought I was, and then I'd realize, nope. So those are some of the headlines that to take away the credibility of this argument, as if.
So can you guess what position the author of this article
I know
was taking?
It's like when we were growing up, and President Clinton said that he smoked but he didn't inhale. How many of us fell out of our chairs laughing? You know, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. I know that's Richard Nixon quote, but that was Bill Clinton's style.
I can't believe he was really fooling anybody.
Yeah, come on. I mean, the only time I ever was like, okay, who was it? Was it Hillary? No, shit, it wasn't. Poop, it wasn't Hillary. Somebody said, yeah, they were running for office and said, yeah, I smoked and I inhaled. And I have more respect for that than trying to lie to me.
And I would say if Bill was just coming out and said, heck yeah, I smoked.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, if I came home to Hillary every day, I would too.
Yeah, my LSD habit would probably have gone up as well. But anyway, so telling me again, we were talking about earlier in the show about the media blowing smoke up our rear ends and wanting us to believe certain things that just lack common sense. And so that to me was when we were talking about that particular resolution. I'm against it. To some of my friends who are like, what? Dude, it's legal in Colorado. It's legal in Montana. I've witnessed the impact that it had on these satellite issues that you wouldn't think, but I lived it and I witnessed it, and I didn't like what it was doing to Colorado. I don't like the thought right now when I lived there for most of it. When you said Colorado to people from other places, their first thought was champagne powder, skiing, and beautiful mountains. Mm-hmm. Now, it's weed anywhere, everywhere.
So there is a libertarian streak in all of us who are conservative.
I hear you.
That says, live and let live. And
I hear you.
What gets left out of that argument, in my view, is if we let live and we let the culture slide, everybody pays a price for that. And, my son still lives in Colorado Springs. Basically, he was up here for a little while.
He found the one conservative nook.
He did, and he's being driven out of that.
Really?
But we still go down there often. And like you say, you drive through traffic, you can smell it. You can just see the entire culture degrading, and that degrades everybody's life. Colorado Springs is nothing like it was back in the 80s when I was there.
Wow.
And I don't want to see that happen to Wyoming. I don't think there's any danger with the current legislature. I think we're pretty resolute not to let it go there.
Good.
But there's constantly that pressure.
I think I got to confess when I said that I hadn't smoked. I went to a Tool concert not too long ago in Denver. It's what I miss about Denver the most
You
is
don't have to go there.
Red Rocks and other, the music in Colorado. I do miss that. And I miss Rockies games, believe it or not, as bad as they are. Love going to Coors Field and other things. But
That I'm with you on.
so I was at a Tool concert with another guy who was a drummer in a heavy metal band and found Jesus after hitting rock bottom with a serious drug addiction. And he was a brother in Christ. And we became very good friends, but we both liked heavy metal music. And you had bangers who were listening to know who Tool is. And they were playing. In fact, I think Rob Zombie was the opening act. Hey, Ken, you still with me? We still buddies?
I actually know who Rob Zombie is. Now, Tool
Yeah.
is beyond my...
Oh, you're going to dig it. I'm going to turn him, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to turn him on to Tool as soon as the show's over. It'll be my bumper music next time I come on board. Anyway,
great.
it's pretty hard stuff. Great stuff. You can compare it to some of you old farts who don't
I'm
know
going
it.
to trade it for Don Williams.
A little Pink Floyd. It's Pink Floyd-esque with the lyrics. Very going too far with that. Anyway, Tool. Okay, so we're going to that show, and him and I are some great seats, and we're sitting behind these four guys, right behind them. And when the show started, like the middle of the Rob Zombie was the warm-up act, to the end of the Tool concert, they never stopped smoking weed. Okay, this was at it was the Pepsi Center then, I think. But anyway, they smoked. So about an hour later, Tom looks over at me, and he was the drummer in a heavy metal band, and found Jesus, and he was the drummer in on our worship team at church. Excellent drummer, believe me. He looks over at me, and I look over at him, and I could tell by the look in his eye, and he had been rehabbed and not done any drugs or alcohol for like 8-10 years at that point. So anyway, I look at him, and I could tell he was stoned. And I look over him and I said, "Are you high?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "So am I." And it was funny because I had recognized it had been so long that we had got so high off secondhand smoke. It was as if we had done bong hits all night long. But it was kind of funny. But I remember when we were leaving, because we were both so distanced from the time we had ever gotten that high before, that we had to wait in the parking lot for like an hour and a half. You ready? No. You ready to drive? No. And I told you.
Go buy some Doritos.
Yeah. Paranoia strikes deep.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And rightfully so.
So that's my confession. That happened not too long ago. Anyway, so I lost my train of thought. Oh, I know. The black market aspect of it is pervasive. Here is supposedly the way they were going to get illegal marijuana out of Colorado, and it is worse now than it was when it was illegal. And that's the part that for Wyoming folks that you may not be considering. And again, if you smoke it, I tell you, God bless you, and especially if you need it as a medical use. But there are aspects to that will come that you're just probably not considering if you were to legalize it. But like you said, it's probably doubtful that would happen here.
Well, a lot of things could happen here, but what's going to happen here right now is another bill paying session. We'll be right back.
Yeah, I know. The weather seems to be toying with us. 60 one day, 42 the next, and pretty soon, my friends, those 6s and 4s are going to turn into 3s and 2s. Though we all want to avoid it, that white stuff is coming, my friends, and you will be shoveling the walk in it.
It's cold, it's unpleasant, and nobody likes to do it. But you could make it just a little bit more comfortable and prevent your feet from turning into a giant block of ice. In fact, you could keep them nice and warm and toasty, and your toes will never even know that they're outside. The rest of you may be frozen solid, but at least your feet won't be. To make all this happen, you just need a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Are you one of those guys that listen to the president just a little bit too closely and now you're tired of winning? Are you getting the feeling that there's been way too many good things happening in our country and you just can't take it anymore? Well, if you are, and you think you should follow Rosie O'Donnell's example and get the heck out of Dodge, you need to call Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She'll make those foreign country living ideas a reality for you. All you have to do is call 307-699-3519, and she'll make sure some freedom-loving, red-blooded American will now live in the home that you no longer want. If you want to sell your house, or if you want to buy one that's way better than the house you have right now, give Rebecca a call. Again, her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day. I'm only gonna get stronger.
See, when the music ends,
Oh, we're supposed
that's
to
when
talk.
we're supposed to start.
I'm new at this, you know. It's a
Yeah.
new experience here.
Well,
with
I
you.
gave you your chance. So.
Well, I was supposed to do that. Okay. Yes. Okay.
It's
Well,
all
you're
good.
the one in the seat of power. SOP. That's pretty impressive. I have a picture here of my studio compared to yours. Hang on a second. I'll show you what reality
Okay,
is
I'm
for your
gonna-
buddy bags. You ready?
See, it takes a while to get the timing down between people, and I've gotten mine down fairly well with David, but I'm not experiencing perfection here yet.
There you
are.
go. Look at that.
Wow.
I don't want to hear you complain. No,
Oh, you're not hearing me
once.
complain.
you got a sweet operation here.
Well,
You
thank
talk about bare bones. That's my studio at my house.
Yeah, some people would call that pretty elaborate, but
Me and Waylon. That's Waylon the dog. Waylon Jennings Baggett. That's his real name, and that's
Wayland's a good name for a dog,
You know.
especially if they're a hound. But
it's a weird household. So you got Tool, and you got Waylon Jennings. You know, you got Rob Zombie, and you got Merle Haggard. It's all good, dude.
and you got JoJo coming home now and then.
Oh yeah.
How long has
he's
it been
country.
since you've seen JoJo?
He's well, I love it. I can say it now. He's getting married in June to beautiful Brienne, beautiful lady, and in June, and so that's on the horizon. That'll be close to Fort Bragg. Oops, yeah, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and so it's going to be a hootenanny. There's going to be lots.
Well, hopefully he can do it in person and not by some satellite phone rig.
Yeah, don't get me started. That's what I was saying with the concerns. I want to give me a general's phone number. I want to know what's on JoJo's schedule. What's coming up? Tell me your strategy.
When you were talking earlier about the phone calls and things like that, when I was in the Gulf, there were no cell phones or anything. We were fortunate enough one day to be near a communications battalion. And they had set up a phone booth, basically, and they would give you like 3 minutes to go call home. Excuse me. And I called my mom. And Mom says, well, where are you? And I said, can't tell you, but we're completely out of reach of any. And about the time I'm ready to say harm, 2 A-10s went over and just strafed the hell out of people across the.
Jeez. That-
And so she heard all that. She said, what was that? And I said, just practice.
Yeah, I'm sure that relieved all her tension. Yeah, they still do that, just so you know, because when Joseph was deployed, listen, again, we got into this about the commander-in-chief. Joseph was deployed in Afghanistan and Qatar, that area, when we evacuated Afghanistan, and he was part of that operation. So he called one time from there. I don't know if it's Qatar or Kuwait or whatever. Again, couldn't tell us exactly. But he was in that theater, and it was one of those lineups on the wall, like friggin' World War II. It wasn't, like satellite. It must have been satellite phone, but it was a phone booths.
Some sort of uplink, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so we had that experience with him. I had another. I don't know if what you think about it. The religious liberty resolution. Then instead of reading the whole thing, I'm just going to say, be it resolved that the Wyoming Republican Party calls on the Wyoming legislature to pass and the governor to sign legislation to protect said free exercise of the religion and prohibit individuals and businesses from being forced to participate in activities contrary to their religious convictions and conscience. So, so again, somebody who's saying, well, what the heck? We don't need that. That's a given. No, I lived through, if some of you remember Jack Phillips, the baker, the bakery owner in Lakewood, Colorado. That's where I lived. I was in the suburb of Denver called Lakewood. And just down the street where we would get bagels and muffins, and never got a wedding cake there or whatever. But Jack Phillips had his little, and I mean little, bakery, and the hit the fan. There's a clip from YouTube. I think this would be a good time to play it. This will be a reminder to folks. What's he talking about? And if you don't think there's folks who are infringing on religious liberty, check this out, man. That ain't the guy.
In a country of 93 million people. And by the way, there has been an implicit understanding before the war, before we ever bombed, that strait was politicized and it had threatened to close it often. So most of the European countries didn't want to really talk.
Victor Davis Hanson, he's one of my favorites.
I thought that was the link you wanted.
No, it should be here on an email. Let's see if I can. Yeah, we're into.
I have.
Okay, I have it right here. Can I send it to? It says Jack Phillips Cake YouTube. KPendy62. In your email.
Here.
I
found it.
You're the man.
Yeah.
Hit it.
We'll see if it'll play.
Joining us for Denver 7 News at 10 this Tuesday evening, I'm Shannon Ogden. Well, a Colorado Supreme Court case that gained national attention and was expected to set precedent for discrimination and free speech cases tonight is over, but there was no decision. The case involves a Lakewood baker who refused to make a cake for a gay couple, later for a trans woman. Denver 7's Daniel Kreuter explains why the case was dismissed and takes us through the history of this decade-long court battle.
Masterpiece Cakes in Lakewood started making national headlines after baker Jack Phillips refused to make a cake for a gay couple's wedding in 2012. On the same day the U.S. Supreme Court announced they would hear that case, his bakery got a call from an attorney, Autumn Scardina, asking for a pink and blue frosted cake to celebrate her transition into a transgender woman. Phillips refused.
And I shared with him that this cake to me is a celebration of both my birth and the fact that I am transgender. And so the colors have significance to me. but obviously they had no inherent message or significance to them.
We were told that the colors were symbolic of a changing from a man to a woman, and it was clearly a message, and I shouldn't be forced to create it.
The Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act does state it is illegal for places of public accommodation to discriminate against protected classes of people, including transgender people. The case eventually made its way to the Colorado Supreme Court earlier this year.
No one should be forced to express a message that they don't believe.
He can't then not serve it to somebody else because of their race, because of their gender, because of their status.
The Colorado Supreme Court has now made its final decision. The majority says the case has to be dismissed and all lower court decisions vacated.
Okay,
all
you could
without the justices actually
stop it anywhere in there. Okay. So that again, my point being that somebody would say, well, what's the, is that an issue here? Well, it has been an issue, and I witnessed that. And they went after this guy, Ken, with so much aggression again, this little small bakery owner. You go to a store, a shop, a bar. We reserve the right to serve anyone. No shirt, no shoes, no service kind of thing. And even though I have no problem with a gay couple getting married or any of that, I also have no problem with somebody saying, you know what, that's kind of goes against the grain of my beliefs, and so I'm going to decline. Now, here's the rub. The Masterpiece Bakery, right across the street, was another bakery right across the street, maybe kitty corner. I mean, I lived there, so I'm seeing it in my mind's eye. There's the other one. And they even said publicly, we'll make your cake. We'll make your cake. We have no problem with it.
It wasn't about getting the cake. It was about...
No. It was about forcing this guy to comply and to follow what they considered the what was right. And it was so disturbing to the point where I have, and I still do, have gay friends who were against it.
Yeah.
Who were against that pressure that they were putting on Jack Phillips. They were saying, why? Why? Because they had to not only prove that point, but they were going to pound it into Jack's head. And to the rest of us who thought, well, religious freedom, he doesn't believe in it. He doesn't want to do it. Go to the bakery across the street.
My wife and I actually had an experience that was similar. We had a little coffee shop in Thermopolis, and we rented videos. And this was all my money, by the
Blockbuster Ken.
Yeah, by the videos, and the whole back of the place there was full of videos, and we'd take the covers and put them in a binder, and somebody could sit there and have a coffee and look through the binders and pick a movie. We had this guy come in one day, and he wanted to see Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth. Do you have that? I said, no. I said, I'm not going to waste my money on that. And he was livid. He says, I have every right to see that movie. I said, yes, you do. But you don't have a right to force me to purchase it and rent it to you. If you want to go see it, you find your own way to see it. And he could not understand. He just thought because I had a storefront that then it was my responsibility to do whatever. And that same kind of thinking, Thermopolis, Wyoming.
Well,
so don't say it couldn't happen here.
Right. That's my point. That's why I brought this up. Because, again, I run in some pretty funny circles, Ken, from very liberal to very conservative, and everything in between. And I feel blessed that I have that perspective, because a lot of times my liberal friends have no contact with somebody conservative, or my conservative friends have no contact with somebody with liberal perspectives, right? But I do. And so I understand that they're saying is if you're going to run a business, you have to run a business you can't discriminate with who's allowed to shop at your store.
I think the difference should be, is it the fault or is it the preference of the person that you would discriminate? For example, if a black man walks in, he had no choice in what color his skin is. Not his issue. there is some argument about
whether it's a choice.
transgenderism, whether it's a choice or whatever. I'm firmly convinced, because I am a person who believes Scripture, that it is absolutely a choice. I mean, there may be some genetic prevalence or weakness toward a certain thing. I can get that, but
some mental health issues.
yeah. But in this sort of a thing, you have a business person and you have a client, and the business person should have some rights as well. And when you come in and a situation like you described, where they were trying to make trouble, they weren't about getting a cake. They could have got a cake anywhere.
Across the street. Now, here's the aspect of it, Ken, that people don't realize. They were not discriminating against those folks shopping. In fact, what we started our show this morning with the media not giving both sides, both perspectives of the argument, right? Well, this is one of those cases because Jack Phillips, the owner, he said, at least on one news outlet, that they could buy anything in the store. They weren't being, discriminated against about shopping there. What they were discriminating, they claimed, was that he would not make them a cake, a wedding cake. Originally, at first, it was it was a wedding cake that he said, you know what, I'm traditional, fundamental Christian, and I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. And so I decline. In fact, he was the one that told them, but, I know these folks across the way, they'll be more than happy. Well, that wasn't good enough, right? But if you want anything else, I've got muffins and donuts and, bakery items for you, knock yourself out. Not good enough. And then just to push it harder, the transgender person heard about that. And now she's coming, he's coming, whoever's coming, they, them, are going to come in there and force him to make a transgender cake.
And that's my problem with a lot of the transgenderism and those sorts of things. I mean, I don't care who you love. I don't care how you want to participate in certain activities after dark or during the daylight. Do it in your own house. It's your own problem. I don't have that. But they not only ask for the liberty to do that, they demand that you, in fact, celebrate it with them.
You and
They start demanding that I have to not only accept it, but turn around and celebrate it. And we have a whole month for this or whatever,
Yeah.
Now you've gone too far.
Yeah.
You're infringing on mine.
I agree. And the point that, and so, thank God the Colorado Supreme Court ruled that he had every right to decline, that he had religious freedom. And he was very consistent. Jack was not a professional media person, public speaker. But I think that was good because he was just representing just the average Joe who was trying to make it and to run a business. But he also went to church on Sundays, and at least his denomination believed that it was between a man and a woman, marriage between a man and a woman. And so that's where he was. I would say, even in Colorado, with much more liberal tendencies, I would say probably 75 to 80% of folks were like, leave the guy alone. Go to another place. If he was doing it about, the color, like you said, the things that you can't control, that's one thing. And if there was no place else to get a cake, right?
Even there, though, and it's interesting that you made that statement, because this also would go and just say somebody who's in the medical profession or whatever. Yeah. And they might be the only one in Wyoming because we're pretty remote. They might be the only one around. And somebody comes to them and says, you're going to have to do this for me.
I want to change sexes.
Yeah. Go to Billings or wherever you have to go.
Trinidad, Colorado, I think is
But yeah, I'm in favor of the idea that nobody can compel me to do something that goes against my religious values.
Well, and interesting enough is it's stuff like this. So again, the only reason I'm bringing it up is because it's a resolution right now before our legislature. And
no, it's actually in front of the GOP. This is the party.
The GOP,
right? Yeah.
I'm jumping ahead here,
cool.
But it's the GOP saying, "Here's our position on it," And what I'm saying is that there's probably a faction out there that is going to resist that and say, what's the harm? Why would we even bother doing this? This has never happened.
People.
Yeah. I mean, everybody, live and let live. That's us in Wyoming, right? Right. Well, guess what? It does happen. It did happen. That's my experience, the Jack Phillips incident. But again, I said it earlier, this became a big deal. Not only did he win the first round, he, of course, the other side appealed. And so he was in court dealing with this, and I didn't write that down. But I think it was in the area of like 7 or 8 years of this, of hiring attorneys and going to court and all the stuff that goes in between, court appearances and so forth. They just would not leave him alone.
Just emotional stress. You're waking up at 2:00 in the morning fretting,
that
sort of thing.
And what's not clear about our Constitution and the freedom of religion. Now, what they proclaim is that the Constitution, again, I'm not a constitutionalist, so fact checkers, have at it, have a ball. Anyway, what it means is that that people that believe that the First Amendment and the freedom of religion is that non-believers are protected from the church, or
the freedom from religion.
Freedom from religion. And in my view, and in a lot of people's views from the conservative perspective, is it's the other way around. It's us being protected, our religion and our ability to practice our religion, that we're protected from the government forcing us to do any number of things. That's what I always understood it to be. But again, folks will manipulate, and they will try to make it, adjust it to their agenda.
Yeah, we've had that discussion on the show recently about what is the job of attorneys, and it seems to me that all too often the job of an attorney is to figure out how to escape the law. Okay, the law says this technically, but how can we get around that? And that's exactly what they did on the actions taken against our right to life bills. That they come in there and say, well, you put in the Constitution, you have a right to make your own health care decisions. Well, everybody knows damn well what we meant when we put that in there. And then they found a way to twist that around because they didn't want findings in the bill. We don't want the whereases in the bill. And go ahead.
I was going to ask you, this particular resolution, what is their argument? What would their argument be against a resolution like this? What are they saying it's not necessary? We don't have that prevailing notion here in Wyoming. Who would vote against it and why?
I think the one that I have heard most often brought up is because we are remote and you don't necessarily have professionals or skilled people in various places. If you're going to do that, then you need to be available. And then the other side of that is we alluded to it earlier, transgenderism or homosexuality. Are they a choice or are they inherent? And that's an interesting battle there.
Well, and from my personal perspective, it makes no difference whether it is or it isn't a choice or whatever. And I agree. I mean, I would be the first one, I think, if I were ever to see blatant, homophobia, blatant, just disrespect to a homosexual person that I knew and I do know, I'd be the first one. I'd come unglued. I would just be there, defending them and think that they should have every right. But what I don't think is that they would have rights over and above the rest of us. And in this case, the one with Jack Phillips, the baker, they were taking away his religious freedom. So they were well, we're going to protect the rights of this gay couple and this transgender person while we take away the religious freedom of this guy. That's what I'm opposed to.
Yeah, now you're getting down to what to me is the meat of the issue. Every individual has rights and dignity and should be paid a certain amount of respect.
Yeah, and I think...
And if I disagree with the homosexual lifestyle in there, they have certain basic human dignity that I should afford them. They do not have the right, though, for their belief or their idea, which they don't say is a religion, but it gets treated like one, to be able to trump mine.
Well, in these arguments, discussions that I have on a lot of issues and platforms that I disagree with the liberal perspective on, that encompasses it. What you just said is I don't necessarily need you to agree with me. I just want to hear my opinion come out of your mouth. That it's not about sharing the right to have your own opinion, your own perspective. I feel like I'm beat over the head with if you don't think, if you don't believe, and if you don't speak to our side of the argument, then you're a homophobe or you're racist or you're Islamophobe, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And
I think what that is seeking for validation. And to me, that makes the argument that it is a choice, is they are desperately trying to have somebody validate their feelings and say it's okay, because I don't feel that they feel confident that it is okay. And I should mention, this is something that has affected my own family. So I'm not a stranger to this, my stepbrother. And we got some talks about various aspects of this. People say, you don't know, you've never had anything to do with it. Quite the contrary. And
he comes to mind when you think about this, and you'll be one of those people like me that I would defend that person's rights to a fist fight. If you discriminate against them in any way, shape, or form, you're going to have me to deal with.
Yeah, but you then can't discriminate against me because I have my views.
Exactly, and I do think that because it's it can be a religious argument, it can be a moral argument, it can be so forth. I understand when the homosexual community gets up in arms because they're afraid that things would go back to another time. I think I'm old enough to remember when using bad words. I don't know if you say gay still, but there's other words that rhyme with my last name. So leave me alone. But anyway, I don't do it. I don't like it. When I hear it, it shocks me.
Yeah.
We've moved on. We've accepted the fact that I don't have to agree with it, but I've accepted the fact that there's folks getting married. I remember when I didn't think it was ever going to be legal for there to be gay marriage, but I was one of those guys. Hey, live and let live. If they're happy, who cares? It's not my business what they do. Well, it was an issue about making it a legal contract and so forth. So, like I said, if I to the friends and family that I know that are homosexuals or they are amidst that community, hey, God bless you. Be happy. Just don't expect me to fall in line.
I've always been opposed to calling it gay marriage because I think words mean things, and marriage is between a man and a woman, and that is one of the Republican platform planks as well. But I have not been, and I've publicly stated this, I've not been opposed to some sort of a civil union for dedicated same-sex partners. If that's the way that you're going to live your life and you're going to spend it with your partner, there are some benefits that I think would be appropriate.
Well,
to share those. And I run into trouble with some of the people.
I'm a little surprised that that's your
that I hang
perspective.
with.
I know you and your politics.
Yeah, because they say, well, it's like the gambling issue and it's like the weed issue. We need to uphold and strengthen, support traditional social norms. I agree with that idea, and ideologically I pull that. But I also am a realist and say there are some people that are not necessarily going to agree with you. And the same way that I don't want them to impose their ideology on me, I don't want to force mine on theirs either. And it has a lot of give and take.
As your campaign manager, I'm joking. I like that perspective, and I like hearing that from you. And it does my heart good to know that we have folks like you in our legislature. And it does take all kinds. Wow, I mean, we covered it today, didn't we? We got weed.
We did, and
media.
We're gonna look at some things tomorrow. We're just about to wrap it up here, folks. But Bags, what do you got in mind for tomorrow?
I want to talk to this guy who's a veteran. I love talking about military because of the family that I have serving. So at least part of the show, I want to talk with a veteran pilot. And maybe get his perspective on the operations that, our rescue missions and some of the successes we've had so far in the Iran conflict.
Popular political
narrative.
Right? All right. Well, I appreciate you being here, and I hope that you out there have appreciated John as well. He'll be back tomorrow, but until then, we're out of here.
With Agent 29.